Quick disclosure before we start. AI-assisted tools were used in parts of the research and production workflow. Final editorial judgment, risk posture, and release approval stayed human-led. This is operational guidance, not legal advice. These are my opinions and are not representative of any organization. Currentness note: this script was source-checked on April 22nd, 2026, before render. This is AI Change Desk. Thank you for choosing to tune in. Imagine somebody on the team says, "Don't worry, it is just a thumbnail." Great. By lunch, that thumbnail is in the newsletter. It is on the website. It is the YouTube image. It is the LinkedIn card. Somebody put it into a deck. Somebody else cropped it into a square, made the text unreadable, and now it is living in Slack with the confidence of a raccoon in a pantry. And the raccoon has brand guidelines. That is the operating problem this week. The image did not stay an image. The mock-up did not stay a mock-up. The prototype did not stay a prototype. It became a production artifact. And if your control process still treats AI visuals like cute side quests, you are going to wake up with a public asset that nobody approved, nobody can trace, nobody wrote alt text for, and nobody knows how to replace without asking 5 people and one haunted Canva folder. Welcome back to AI Change Desk. I am Michael. Today is the Wednesday episode for April 22nd, 2026, and this one connects directly to episode 19. Episode 19 was about release gates. Stronger models, cyber boundaries, budgets, capacity, all the grown-up machinery. Today we take that same release gate discipline and point it at the visual layer. Because the next place organizations are going to lose control is not only a rogue agent writing code at midnight, it is a perfectly polished image that looks ready enough to ship. That phrase, ready enough, should come with a small warning siren. The thesis is simple. The picture is a production change. Not every picture. Not the silly one you make for a group chat. Not the banana wearing sunglasses because the day was long and the soul needed a minute. I support the emotional banana. But the minute the image becomes public, branded, reused, attached to an episode, used in a sales motion, dropped into a website, exported into a deck, or handed to another tool for implementation, it has crossed the line. It is now an operating asset, and operating assets need owners. Story 1. OpenAI pushed image generation deeper into the everyday work surface. On April 21st, OpenAI announced ChatGPT Images 2.0. Their ChatGPT release notes say Images 2.0 is available on all ChatGPT plans, and that images with Thinking are available on paid plans when selecting Thinking and Pro models. That matters because this is not a tiny specialist tool hiding in the basement with a badge scanner and a laminated workflow. This is image creation inside the general purpose place where people already write, plan, summarize, research, and ask the machine to please make the messy thing less embarrassing before the meeting. OpenAI's help material also describes creating and editing images in ChatGPT, including precise instructions, text inside images, transparent backgrounds, and image edits. And the system card is the more serious part. OpenAI describes better world knowledge, better instruction following, dense visual detail, and a thinking mode that can use reasoning and tools in the image generation process. It also discusses risks around more realistic image generation, including deepfakes and sensitive imagery, and describes safety layers around prompts, inputs, and outputs. So the operator lesson is not, wow, pictures are prettier now. That is true, but that is not the interesting sentence. The interesting sentence is, more people can make more convincing visual artifacts from inside the same workflow where they are already making decisions. That is useful. It is also how chaos gets a nice kerning pass. This is where teams make the first mistake. They assume visual quality equals release readiness. It looks polished, so it must be close. It has readable text, so it must be approved. It matches the vibe, so it must match the brand. It came from a paid tool, so it must be safe. No. A polished image can still have bad sourcing. A beautiful graphic can still be inaccessible. A clever thumbnail can still overpromise the episode. A product mockup can still imply a feature you do not offer. A generated person can still create rights and likeness problems. A chart can still be wrong while wearing a very expensive-looking grid. The grid is not evidence. The grid is furniture. So the first release gate is boring, and boring is the point. Who asked for the asset? What prompt produced it? What tool made it? What source images or references went in? What model setting mattered? Who approved the copy inside the image? Who checked whether the text is legible on mobile? Who wrote the alt text? Where is it allowed to appear? And what gets swapped in if it is wrong after publish? If you cannot answer those questions, you do not have an asset. You have a very attractive rumor. Story 2. Anthropic pushed design work closer to handoff. On April 17th, Anthropic announced Claude Design by Anthropic Labs. Anthropic describes it as a research preview product for polished visual work, designs, prototypes, slides, one-pagers, and more. It says Claude Design is powered by Claude Opus 4.7 and is available for Claude Pro, Max, Team, and Enterprise subscribers. Enterprise matters here because Anthropic says the product is off by default for enterprise organizations, and admins can enable it in organization settings. That one detail is a whole governance novel hiding in a sentence, because the question is not simply, can we make a prototype faster? The question is, who is allowed to connect the prototype to the organization's design system? Who can share it? Who can export it? Who can hand it to implementation? Who can turn a conversation into something that looks official enough that everyone starts acting like it is approved? Anthropic's product page describes a workflow where Claude can apply a team's design system when given access. It describes organization-scoped sharing. It describes exports to Canva, PDF, PPTX, standalone HTML, and a Claude code handoff bundle. That is the part that should make operators sit up. Because once you can export to all those places, the design is not trapped in a design tool anymore. It can walk. It can walk into a sales deck. It can walk into a landing page. It can walk into a prototype review. It can walk into a developer handoff. It can walk into the Tuesday meeting and somehow become a roadmap promise because everyone was tired and the buttons looked real. Never underestimate the persuasive power of a button with a shadow. This is why AI replaces designers is the wrong frame. It is also a lazy frame. The better frame is visual work is getting a faster handoff surface. And faster handoff surfaces punish unclear ownership. If the design system is connected, then brand governance is connected. If export is available, then distribution governance is connected. If a prototype can become an implementation bundle, then product and engineering governance are connected. If a marketer can create campaign visuals, then legal, accessibility, and messaging governance are connected. The artifact changed lanes. The control has to travel with it. Here's the synthesis. OpenAI's image release and Anthropic's design surface are different products, but they point to the same operating shift. Visual work is becoming conversational, generated, editable, exportable, and easier to reuse. That is good. It also means the old review sequence is upside down. The old sequence was make the thing, polish the thing, maybe review the thing, ship the thing. The new sequence has to be define the allowed use, generate the thing, document the thing, review the thing, export the thing, track where the thing went. Because the asset now travels faster than the meeting invite. And once it travels, it accumulates authority. People see the image and assume there was a process behind it. Sometimes there was. Sometimes the process was Dave at 11:47 p.m. typing, make it pop, which should be legally classified as a weather event. I am not anti-Dave. I am anti-untraceable pop. This is also why our own production process matters. If the podcast cover and YouTube thumbnail are canonical Gemini-generated assets, then they should be treated as canonical production files, not suggestions, not temporary art, not something the transcript pack overwrites because a template woke up feeling important. They need protected file paths, a generation manifest, alt text, a social image URL that points to the actual canonical thumbnail, a release package that knows which image is authoritative. That is not being precious. That is preventing the site, the RSS feed, the YouTube upload, and the LinkedIn package from all borrowing different cousins of the same idea and then pretending they are a family portrait. So here is the practical control. For the next week, run one visual workflow control check. Pick one public asset type, maybe episode art, maybe site hero graphics, maybe a LinkedIn carousel, maybe sales deck visuals. Create one tiny manifest. Asset name, owner, approver, tool, model, prompt, source inputs, date generated, allowed uses, forbidden uses, brand notes, accessibility notes, rights notes, export sizes, where it appears, rollback file. That is it. Not a theology, not a 60-page governance artifact with a table of contents that needs emotional support. One page. If the image is public, it gets a manifest. If the image has text, someone checks the text. If the image is dense, someone adds alt text and a click to enlarge option. If the image uses a person, logo, product, public place, source image, or outside reference, someone checks rights and policy. If the image goes into multiple channels, someone records the channels. If the image fails, someone knows what replaces it. That is the control. And the reason it works is that it does not fight the speed of the tools. It gives the speed a rail. This is the thread from episode 19. Release gates are not about slowing everything down. They are about keeping the faster thing from quietly changing the organization without permission. A stronger model is a production change. A more autonomous workflow is a production change. A generated visual that becomes public is a production change, so gate it like one. Not because images are dangerous by default, because images are persuasive by default, and persuasive things deserve adult supervision. Quick recap. OpenAI's April 21st Images 2.0 update widens access to more capable image generation inside ChatGPT. Anthropic's April 17th Claude Design preview turns visual work into a collaborative, exportable, brand-aware handoff surface. The operator lesson is that visual artifacts now need source, brand, accessibility, rights, approval, export, and rollback controls before they spread. Next week action. Publish one visual asset manifest and route every public AI-generated image through it for 7 days. Do not make it elaborate. Make it used. Because the goal is not to admire the process. The goal is to keep the raccoon out of the pantry. And if the raccoon is already in the pantry, at least make sure it has alt text. That is AI Change Desk. I am Michael. See you in the next episode. This is AI Change Desk. See you next time.